Hey guys, so with 8.1 came many Elemental Shaman changes. I have made a couple videos going over how good I think Ellie's going to be and the changes themselves, but in this video, it's going to be more of a guide. That's going to be specifically going to be a guide on Elemental Shaman. I have kind of tried to record this a couple times and it always ended up being way too long. So I kind of decided I was going to do 3 separate videos, potentially a different number than 3, but right now I'm planning on doing 3. One for talents, one for rotation, and one for more of a gearing thing. So I'll probably do 3 separate videos and upload one very long video of all of it for those that want to binge watch. But in this section or video is going to be talents. So stay tuned if you want to see about 8.1 talents. And of course, as you may notice, this video is going to be based on stormwithandlava.com, and if something changes, for example, if a certain talent is buffed, if Elemental Blast damage gets doubled or something, and you want to know, should I use that now? Make sure to check the website because I can't go back and retroactively change the guide on YouTube. So the website will be the best place to make sure nothing changed. But without further ado, let's hop into the talents. So a TLDR version, we got a questing and solo content thing that I'm not really going to go into much. But I will say I personally would much rather use Ice Fury than Surge of Power, but that's just me. Otherwise, kind of use whatever you want here. For Mythic Plus, you got Earth and Rage. Very good talent there. Totem Mastery, Spirit Wolf, or Static Charge, depending on the situation. Storm Elemental or Liquid Magma Totem, depending on situation. Nature's Guardian or Ancestral Guidance, depending on situation. And Purple Elementalist or Ice Fury, depending on situation. So I will go into a lot more detail about situations here. Then Stormkeeper, of course, is the last one. But I will go into a lot more detail on the situations here in a little bit. But if you just want a general all-purpose good Mythic Plus build, go with all the left side things here. And you can ignore the right side as they are the more situational ones of the talent row. For Raid's single target gameplay, Earth and Rage is the best still, Totem Mastery is the best, Spirit Wolf, Storm Elemental, Nature's Guardian, Primal Elementalist, and Stormkeeper. So now that that is out of the way, let's talk a lot more in depth about each individual talent and which situation you might use it in. The first row we got here is level 15 row. Earth and Rage is plain and simple. It's too good. It is just way too powerful in this row. There is no reason to ever use anything else. It is perfectly fine with movement. It does not require even maxing. It is also beneficial in AoE because it still does its thing. It's all passive. And it pretty much doubles the damage of Echo and Elemental Blast. There's no reason ever to use anything else. Hopefully that will change in the future. If that does change, Echo of the Elements is pretty nice for a more movement-heavy fight because while the other charge is cooling down, the other one is available to cast. You have 2 charges cooling down. It's just overall you have more things that are happening while you're moving, and then more things you can do when you get to plant and stop. Elemental Blast, for example, though it does cool down, you might think same logic, but there's only 1 charge. So if you're moving when that comes up, you are just simply losing damage. Whereas Lava Burst, one comes up, the other one's still coming up, you have time to use that. Elemental Blast is also just really undertuned. Echo of the Elements, they have to add some Lava Burst damage or something to it to make it catch up Earth and Rage. Earth and Rage is just so good. Now, actually, before we move on from that, one thing to note is that if Echo of the Elements ever is okay, it synergizes really well with Master of the Elements, so if that is ever a thing, we could see some Master of the Elements, Echo of the Elements, and Ice Fury type of build, and then Elemental Blast synergizes really well with Natural Harmony. So if we ever see that get buffed, that could be really nice synergy there as well. And Natural Harmony does make Elemental Blast a little better. So if you have like 3 Natural Harmonies or something, maybe sim it just to make sure Elemental Blast isn't actually good. Level 30 row, we got Aftershock, Call of Thunder, and Totem Mastery. This is one of my favorite rows for the diversity and the amount of choice you have here. So on pure single target, Totem Mastery is simply the best. It is so versatile. It is good on movement because you're generating Maelstrom, you're doing Flame Shock damage. You have more haste and more overload chance for when you stop moving. You have overload chance on Chain Lightning, you got haste for AoE. It's an all-purpose talent that is really good, especially on the single target bosses. Aftershock starts to pull ahead on 5 or more targets. Kind of competes on 2+. And one thing Aftershock is actually really good for is in a dungeon, if you don't need a kite that much, but there's a lot of casters, you can use Aftershock and get a whole bunch of earthquakes down and interrupt a lot of those casts. Super valuable. So in dungeons, Aftershock is a pretty common pick. More AoE damage, more interrupts from earthquakes, so do keep that in mind. Then Call of the Thunder is kind of just overall not very good right now. It's just undertuned. This guide's going to be mostly about PvP, or rather PvE, so I won't really talk about the PvP benefits of this, but that is potential there, I guess. Level 45 talent, definitely a more personal choice thing here. My personal choice is almost always Spirit Wolf. You get up to a 20% damage reduction, which is really nice for things like Upheaval and Toldagor. You know what's coming, you go Ghost Wolf, chill for a sec, can help you survive quite a bit there. And also, when you're just running from point A to point B, it gives you that little speed boost. So there's two nice little things about Spirit Wolf here that are entirely passive. You just go Ghost Wolf. First Shield does take a GCD, and the healing itself is kind of not very good. So I don't really like this talent at all. I never really use this. Wouldn't really recommend that you use this. Maybe some very specific fight, like a very attrition-based fight, you might want to use this. If DPS doesn't really matter, get some more healing out. But in general, a Spirit Wolf is definitely more valuable. Static Charge might have some very specific niche use. Some like Mythic Plus pull back to back. Want that cooldown up 20 seconds sooner so you can stun again if you don't have any other stuns in the group, or I don't know, something like that. But generally, this talent's kind of not very good. Level 60 row, another more versatile row here. We got Master of the Elements. Like I said, can be used with Ice Fury. Definitely beneficial for movement because of the Ice Fury. So potential for that there. Not good at AoE, so I wouldn't really use this in Mythic Plus at all. Because on 4 or more targets, you never use Lava Burst, so no reason to ever use Master of the Elements there. Never going to buff it. 3 targets, there's a lot of potential for it because of Earthquake buffing, but it's competing with 2 AoE talents, so it just isn't good for AoE. I wouldn't suggest it for AoE. But for high movement fights, do consider this with Ice Fury. Storm Elemental is a really good talent because it is very good for single target if you can plant for those 30 seconds and just cast. Specifically, you can cast Lightning Bolt like almost the whole time. It's also, with Primal Elementalist, an excellent AoE talent with an excellent AoE cooldown burst. Not only are you getting the AoE cooldown burst, you're also getting the reduced chain lightning cast time, which can get you a ton of earthquakes out. So a lot of potential for Storm Ele in pretty much every possible situation. The only thing that hurts Storm Ele a lot is like high movement single target, which you can use Master of the Elements with, or you can use Liquid Magma Totem with. Liquid Magma Totem is nice for more frequent AoE, slightly less bursty, but more consistent. You can use it a lot more often. Pretty nice for smaller amounts of targets. So, in a summary, Storm Ele is the default choice. Very strong, very versatile. There's a lot of potential for Master of the Elements with Ice Fury on AoE. And Liquid Magma Totem is kind of nice for like small target cleave, or potentially AoE in which you have to move a lot. Because you can just put it down and you can run around and do whatever, and it will continue benefiting entirely as long as the mob stays still. Whereas Storm Elemental, it does have its AoE on its own, but if you're not casting, you're losing a decent part of the benefit from it. So a pretty nicely balanced talent row here. There's potential for all of them to be used, but the default choice is Storm Ele. Next talent row is another more utility, more choice-driven one. Nature's Guardian, really nice for survival. You don't have to really think about it. It kind of does its thing. Ancestral Guidance, surprisingly underrated, but very good AoE heal if you're doing AoE damage. So let's say you're doing a very large pull in Mythic Plus, a Toldazar or something. It's Venom casters. There's those big reanimated guys that are constantly AoEing the group. You pop Stormkeeper, you pop Storm Ele, you pop Ancestral Guidance, and you are healing the group for 20k HPS and keeping everybody alive. Very nice talent to have access to. But in general, Nature's Guardian is going to be better because it's just kind of a passive thing you get to have. You don't have to think about using it. And most of the time you don't need Ancestral Guidance, but when you do need it, it's so nice to have. So do consider using that for higher keys if you need it. And then Windrush Totem is kind of just there. Most people forget it exists, but there is some situations in which you could use this pretty effectively. some raid bosses where you need a whole group to run somewhere. Basically, if you don't have a Feral or Guardian Druid, and there's a fight which Stampeding Roar is needed, you can say, hey, I have the Ghetto version, let's use that, and then or raid will thank you. So keep that in mind as well. Don't forget it exists, because there is situations where you can use Windrush Totem. This talent row is actually my favorite talent row, next to the Aftershock side. So actually we have quite a few talent rows that are pretty versatile, but on this one, first up, Surge of Power, one of the new talents. This thing is very complicated to use properly, but if used properly in the right situation, it is really, really powerful. I believe there's a blog post coming out soon about the details on this, but long story short, it can potentially allow you to get an additional use of your elemental cooldown by using the Lava Burst benefit from it, which reduces the cooldown of your elemental by 6 seconds. So if there's a fight that's 7 minutes and 30 seconds long, you get one on pull, you get one at 2 minutes 30 second mark, you get one at the 5-minute mark, and then right as it comes off cooldown, the boss would die. So if there's a fight that you know is going to be that long, or at least sometime within like 10 or 20 seconds of that long, you could spec Surge of Power and Storm Ellie, and use some Lava Bursts that are buffed and get an additional use of your Elemental, and get quite a bit of benefit out of that. Outside of those ones where you're reducing the cooldown, if you don't need it, the cooldown reduced anymore, my voice is giving out, but you do not need the cooldown reduced any further, you could just start using Lightning Bolts, which is also a very good DPS option, and synergizes quite well with the Stormkeeper. This talent, a very high skill cap talent, very high potential talent, a very high risk talent, so something to keep in mind if you're a newer player is I'd probably avoid this one. And it also has absolutely no benefit on AoE, so I don't see this being used in Mythic Plus at all. Primal Elementalist is kind of the default choice because not a whole lot of effort goes into using it properly. Just a nice passive bonus you get, and it's also very versatile. You get single target damage, very good, AoE damage, very good. Just a cooldown thing, so it's also a nice little burst window. It's overall a very nice talent to have. As long as you use Meteor on AoE, either Storm on AoE, you can also do a ton of AoE with it, so nice talent, just overall versatile, easy to use talent. That's why it is the suggested talent. Ice Fury, purely single target, but the reason I said you could potentially use this in Mythic Plus is primarily going to be explosive affix weeks, because explosive orbs will likely be one shot by the Frost Shocks, or at the very worst 2 shot. So early on in the pull, which is usually when things get out of control, people aren't really ramped up yet, pop your Ice Fury, start Frost Shocking, and you can be saving the life of everyone while they all ramp. And then you can start AoEing with your Stormkeeper and stuff. So this could have a lot of potential. Also, let's say you're doing like King's Rest or something that's tyrannical, you want more boss damage, bosses have a lot of movement on them. Ice Fury is quite good for single target with high movement, especially with Mastery of the Elements. So there's also a lot of potential for rage with that. So Ice Fury is actually competitive now. You can use this when you need more movement. So do keep that in mind. I really like that Ice Fury is useful now. Gives us a whole other damage profile. Also good for like 30-second burst windows, or windows adds that spawn every 30 seconds that need to be bursted down, things like that. So just to summarize this row, Primal Elementalist is the default choice. Surge of Power is really, really good on single target if you can use it properly. Then Ice Fury offers you a more mobile build. With Master of the Elements in particular, it can be quite good. Now, 100 talents is pretty easy. Unlimited Power, pretty undertuned. We don't really use Mastery. Ascendance, really undertuned. Pretty bad, like really bad. And then Stormkeeper is really good. It is not only single target, but is also excellent AoE, so Stormkeeper is just the go-to here. You never use anything else. I would not use Ascendance or Unlimited Power in pretty much any situation. So Stormkeeper, definitely the go-to here. So that is it for the talents section of the guide. If you are watching the mega guide or whatever, stay tuned and you will get the rest of the guide, the priority list coming up next. If you're watching the talents video in particular, check my channel for the other stuff. Sorry for not uploading just one video on this. I really didn't want to upload like a 45-minute guide because that is very intimidating to most people. Most people don't have 45 minutes of free time to sit down and watch a guide. So I wanted to split it up a little bit. and then have the full one for those that do have the 45 minutes. But anyways, guys, that is the talent section of the guide. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. And make sure to subscribe if you want to see more, like the video and all that. And check the channel for the other parts. I'll see you guys there. Have a good one.